He only went to the blind date to stop a woman from being stood up. He never expected to meet the love of his life. Jonathan Cole is a brilliant tech CEO and devoted single father who believes in structure, strategy, and keeping his heart out of the equation. But when his arrogant friend ditches a blind date after discovering the woman isn't from a wealthy background, Jonathan steps in, not to impress, but to protect a stranger from heartbreak. Please subscribe and leave a like for us. It means the world to us. Also share this video to your friends and loved ones and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. The scent of freshly brewed espresso filled the air of the top-floor office. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city skyline, where dusk began painting the buildings gold and amber. Jonathan Cole, CEO of Cole Tech Innovations, leaned back in his leather chair, his tie slightly loosened and a faint crease on his brow betraying the otherwise composed image he presented to the world. He tapped his fingers on the desk rhythmically, his Bluetooth headset snug in his ear. Wait, Jonathan said with a chuckle, not looking at his monitor. You're bailing now? Liam, that's ridiculous. On the other end of the line, Liam Hart, longtime friend and occasional business partner, scoffed. Come on, Jonathan. I agreed to this blind date because everyone said she was some heiress or something. A family with resorts in Bali or whatever. Turns out she's just a regular girl. Probably still lives with her mom and takes the bus. No thanks. Jonathan's amused expression faltered. You're seriously not going because she's not rich? Liam didn't hesitate. Why would I? This was supposed to be a power match, networking and maybe more. I don't do charity cases, man. Jonathan stood from his chair, walked to the window, and stared out at the glass towers. You don't even know her. And I don't need to. Look, I'm not trying to be a jerk. You are. I'm just being honest. If I'm going to waste 2 hours of my night, I'd prefer it not be with someone I have zero interest in. She's probably already planning out her fairy tale romance, just because we're meeting in a nice restaurant. You know how women like that get. Jonathan rubbed his temple, forcing down the sharp response on the edge of his tongue. You could at least show up, Liam. Talk to her. Then leave if there's nothing there. But don't stand her up. That's low, even for you. Liam laughed dryly. Since when did you become the moral compass? Since I had a daughter, Jonathan said quietly, his tone shifting. There was a pause. Liam sighed. All right, father of the year. You go instead if it bothers you so much. Take her out for dessert. Hell, take Nicole. Let her see what real poverty looks like. Enough, Jonathan snapped. But Liam had already hung up. Jonathan stared at the call-ended screen for a long moment, his jaw tightening. His phone buzzed again, his calendar reminding him of the staff briefing in 20 minutes, and another alert right after that. Nicole arrives for 30 p.m. As he returned to his desk, something gnawed at him. The idea of someone waiting at a restaurant, dressed up, hopeful, only to slowly realize she'd been ghosted. It made his stomach turn. He'd seen it happen before. People treating others like disposable objects, especially when money entered the equation. Liam might have thought it was a harmless act, but Jonathan knew better. He was raising a little girl. What kind of man would he be if he taught her that a person's worth was measured by their bank account? He exhaled slowly, pushing aside his irritation and tapping a message into his phone. Reservation for 3 at Oralee, 6 p.m. tonight. His assistant replied instantly. Confirmed. Table by the window, per your preference. 3. Not 2. He glanced at the framed photo on his desk. Nicole grinning with her 2 front teeth missing, arms around his neck at a summer fair. Just then a knock at the door. Come in. It was Mara, Nicole's nanny, holding the little girl's hand as she bounced into the office, her backpack jingling with trinkets and crayons. Daddy, Nicole sang, running into his arms. Hey, princess. He scooped her up effortlessly, pressing a kiss to her forehead. You smell like coffee and computers. He chuckled. That's how you know I've been working hard. Nicole peered at him curiously. Are we doing something fun today? He hesitated, then smiled. Actually, yeah. Something a little different. As he looked at his daughter, full of excitement and trust, a plan was forming. Unconventional, maybe even strange, but it felt right. Someone had to show up for that woman tonight. And if Liam wasn't going to be a decent man, Jonathan would, with his daughter by his side. The fading sun painted streaks of tangerine and violet across the city skyline. Below, the streets buzzed with the early evening rush. Honking cars, hurried pedestrians, and neon lights beginning to flicker to life. But in Jonathan's penthouse office, a rare calm lingered. Nicole sat cross-legged on the plush rug near the coffee table, humming to herself while coloring on a large sketch pad, her tongue poking out in concentration as she shaded in a princess gown. Jonathan was sitting on the edge of his desk, sleeves rolled up, watching her. He could have canceled the reservation. Could have let it go. But the look on his daughter's face when he said they had plans tonight, it stirred something in him. He wasn't just taking her for the sake of it, he wanted her there. Nicole had a way of seeing people for who they really were. No filters. No judgments. If the woman they were meeting was kind, Nicole would know. Instantly. "Sweetheart," Jonathan said, running a hand through his head. "You remember how we talked about being kind to people even when others aren't?" Nicole nodded without looking up. "Like when that boy pushed Carla at school and I helped her up." "Exactly," he said with a smile. "Well, tonight we're going to meet someone who was supposed to see a friend of mine. But he bailed." Nicole looked up at him with a little frown. "He left her all alone?" "Yeah," he said gently. "And I thought maybe we could go instead. Keep her company. You'd be okay with that." Nicole didn't hesitate. "Can she draw too?" Jonathan laughed. "I don't know. We'll have to find out." She jumped up and grabbed her tiny purple purse with a butterfly clasp. "Then I'm bringing my glitter pens. Just in case." An hour later, the black SUV rolled up to Lee, a boutique-style restaurant tucked between high-end boutiques in the Arts District. The ambience was intimate but not overly extravagant. Rustic lights, exposed brick walls, tables set with candles and fresh roses. Jonathan stepped out of the vehicle in a tailored navy suit, Nicole's small hand in his. She wore a powder blue dress and sparkly silver flats, with a headband holding back her curls. She was beaming, clearly treating the night like a royal affair. They walked in, greeted by the hostess, who raised an eyebrow at the unexpected trio, but quickly composed herself. "Mr. Cole, welcome back. Table for 3. "Yes," Jonathan nodded. "Window seat, I believe?" "Right this way." Linda sat at the corner table, hands folded neatly in her lap, trying not to glance at her phone again. It had been 30 minutes since the reservation time. Her water glass was nearly empty, her napkin untouched. She had dressed simply, a pale pink blouse, black slacks, modest heels, and had even curled her hair despite the heat outside. She wasn't expecting fireworks or a proposal, but she did expect basic human decency. When she heard the footsteps approach, she looked up, expecting, perhaps, a waiter to finally take pity and offer an appetizer. Instead, she saw a tall, well-dressed man with a little girl bouncing beside him. He stopped in front of her table. "Hi, are you Linda?" She blinked, slightly startled. "Yes? I'm Jonathan," he said, extending a hand. "Jonathan Cole. I'm not who you were supposed to meet tonight." Linda stood slowly, confused. "I don't understand. You're not Liam?" "No," he said. "Liam is," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "a friend. And he's not coming." He saw the flicker of disappointment flash in her eyes, followed by a quiet sigh as she sat down again. "I thought as much." Jonathan gestured toward the empty chairs. "May we join you? This is my daughter, Nicole." Nicole stepped forward with a practiced curtsy. "Hi, Miss Linda. I like your earrings." Linda couldn't help but smile. "Thank you, sweetheart. Please have a seat." Dinner unfolded more smoothly than Jonathan could have imagined. They ordered a few appetizers to share. Linda was surprisingly relaxed, laughing gently when Nicole declared that escargot was fancy for snail boogers. She asked questions about Nicole's school, her favorite color, and even listened as the little girl explained the very detailed plot of a cartoon she loved. Jonathan mostly observed at first, struck by how naturally Linda shifted from poised and polite to playful and warm. She had a calming presence, one that didn't feel forced, even in an awkward situation like this. At one point, Nicole leaned over and whispered, loud enough for the whole table to hear, "Daddy, I think she's a princess in disguise." Linda's cheeks flushed. Jonathan smiled. "I was thinking the same thing." By the time dessert arrived, a shared chocolate lava cake, Linda looked visibly more at ease. "I'm sorry about tonight," Jonathan said, breaking the momentary silence. "You deserve better. Liam shouldn't have agreed to the date in the first place if he wasn't going to show up." Linda shrugged gently. "It's not your fault. Honestly, I've been on worse dates where the guy did show up." That earned a laugh from all three of them. After dinner, as they waited outside for their car, Linda glanced at Jonathan. "Why did you really come?" He thought for a moment. "Because it felt wrong to leave you sitting there, waiting. And because Nicole wanted to wear her sparkly shoes." Linda looked down at the little girl spinning in circles and giggling. "She's lovely. You're doing a great job with her." "Thanks. She makes it easy." Their car pulled up, and Jonathan opened the door for Nicole, who climbed in sleepily, cradling her glitter pens like a treasure. He turned to Linda. "Thank you for not walking out the moment I showed up. Thank you for coming. I didn't realize I needed the company tonight." They shared a brief but lingering look. One that didn't ask for anything more, but held the faintest promise of possibility. "Good night, Linda." "Good night, Jonathan." And just like that, the door closed, and the SUV rolled away, disappearing into the river of city lights. But neither of them could shake the feeling that something important had just begun. 3 days passed. 3 days, and Linda still remembered the way Nicole had smiled up at her with those curious, trusting eyes. The little girl had made an impression far more lasting than any child she'd casually met before. And Jonathan, reserved but sincere, had handled the awkward situation with a kind of grace that surprised her. Most men wouldn't bother, and certainly not the CEO of a tech company. Now back in her regular life, grading midterms, preparing lesson plans, and trying not to fall behind on bills, Linda found herself thinking about that night more than she wanted to admit. She wasn't used to men like Jonathan. He was composed, sharp, and clearly successful, but he didn't use any of it to belittle her. That in itself felt rare. Jonathan, on the other hand, had trouble concentrating at work. He tried to blame it on quarterly reports or an upcoming board meeting, but the truth was simpler. Linda had made an impression. A strong one. She hadn't sulked or pouted or asked why her original date didn't show. Instead, she'd made him and his daughter feel comfortable at a dinner she hadn't planned for. It wasn't just her poise. It was the way she listened to Nicole like she genuinely cared, the way she didn't once mention his title or his status. She never asked what kind of car he drove or what company he ran. It was refreshing, and Nicole had been talking about her nonstop. "Daddy," Nicole asked from the back seat 2 days after the dinner. They were parked outside her school, the morning sun glinting off the windshield. When are we seeing Miss Linda again?" Jonathan looked back at her through the rearview mirror. "Why do you ask?" "Because she liked my glitter pens. And I like her." Nicole frowned. "Don't you like her?" Jonathan smiled, one hand on the wheel. "I do." "Then can we see her again?" He paused. Maybe it had been a little unconventional to show up at a stranger's blind date with his daughter in tow. Maybe it had all just been a moment of decency that didn't need to go anywhere. But something about it wanted to go somewhere. Not for Nicole. Not even out of guilt. For him. That evening, after Nicole had gone to bed, Jonathan sat on the balcony of his apartment, sipping tea and scrolling through his phone. He hesitated over Linda's contact, added after the dinner, so he could share photos Nicole insisted they take. He hadn't texted since. Eventually, he typed, "Hey Linda, this is Jonathan and Nicole. She's been asking if you'd like to meet up again, maybe somewhere casual. She misses you. And well, so do I." He hovered over the send button for a beat before tapping it. The message sent. 3 minutes later, his phone buzzed. "I'd love to. As long as it's not another 5-star restaurant." Winking face, I know a quiet park not far from the city. Saturday. Saturday came quickly. The air was crisp with early autumn, leaves just beginning to turn. The park was quiet, tucked away behind a residential block with white oak trees, picnic benches, and a small playground with faded paint. Linda was already there when they arrived, seated on a blanket with a small thermos and a container of cut-up fruit. She stood up when she saw them, waving. Nicole bolted. "Miss Linda," she squealed, arms open as she flung herself into a hug. Linda laughed, catching her. "Someone missed me. I brought my new glitter stickers." Nicole beamed. "They smell like strawberries." Jonathan approached, smiling, carrying a paper bag with sandwiches and juice boxes. "Hi," he said. "Hi," she replied softly. There was a brief silence, comfortable and warm. They sat, the three of them, on that blanket in the shade of an old oak tree. Nicole chattered endlessly, flipping through her sticker book, occasionally sticking one on Linda's hand or Jonathan's sleeve. Neither of them minded. Jonathan handed Linda a sandwich. "I wasn't sure what you liked," he said. "So I got chicken, turkey, and a wild card, peanut butter and banana." Linda laughed. "You're braver than most CEOs I've met. I don't think most CEOs have ever been attacked by a 6-year-old with glitter stickers." "You say that like it's a bad thing." They shared a smile. The afternoon passed slowly, the kind of slow that feels like time is finally playing fair. Nicole ran off to the playground for a bit, giving the adults a moment alone. Jonathan turned toward Linda, quiet for a moment before he said, "I'm really glad you agreed to this." Linda looked down, brushing a leaf off her lap. "Honestly, so am I. I've had a lot of reasons not to trust people lately. But you and Nicole, you caught me off guard in the best way." He nodded, understanding more than she realized. "I'm not great at this," he admitted. "Dating. Trusting. Letting people in. My world doesn't make that easy. And mine makes it nearly impossible," she replied, meeting his eyes. "People either look down at you or expect you to be grateful for crumbs. I'm tired of both." Their eyes locked. No grand declarations. No fairy tale music playing. Just the beginning of something honest. "Maybe we could do this again next weekend," he offered. Linda smiled. "You mean the glitter attack part or the picnic?" "Both," he said with a laugh. Just then, Nicole came sprinting back, holding a stick like a sword. "I'm the princess and the knight," she declared. "And you, Miss Linda, are the queen." Linda laughed, placing a mock crown on her head. "Well, I'm honored." Jonathan leaned back on his elbows, watching the two of them. And for the first time in a long time, he realized he wasn't thinking about his next meeting or tomorrow's deal or a pending acquisition. He was just here, present, hopeful, and maybe, just maybe, falling into something real. The following week was filled with the usual chaos. Early morning meetings, pitch decks, school runs, missed emails, and endless reminders pinging on Jonathan's calendar. But underneath the noise, something quieter stirred. Linda. Her laughter. The way she brushed a curl behind her ear when she was shy. How she listened, really listened, not like someone waiting for their turn to speak. And the way she looked at Nicole like she was more than just a child, but a person who mattered. Jonathan found himself lingering on thoughts of her at odd moments, during coffee breaks, between meetings, while tying Nicole's shoes. Even Nicole wasn't subtle. "Daddy," she said one night at dinner, swinging her legs under the chair. "If Miss Linda came over, would she eat broccoli with us?" Jonathan smirked. "You mean, would she eat the broccoli you refused to touch?" "No, I eat the tiny ones," she giggled. "But if she came over, I'd eat the big ones too. Like, even the ones that look like tiny trees." He set down his fork and leaned in playfully. "You really like her, don't you?" Nicole's face turned serious. "She's nice. She talks to me like I'm not just a kid. And she knows how to braid my hair like Miss Carla did." "Remember Miss Carla?" Jonathan nodded. That had been Nicole's old nanny, the one who left to take care of her own family abroad. Nicole hadn't connected with anyone new since. Until now. "She also smells like cookies," Nicole added matter-of-factly. That made Jonathan laugh. "That's very important." Nicole leaned in closer, her eyes wide and honest. Do you like her, Daddy? He froze for a moment, caught off guard, not by the question, but by how easily the answer came. Yeah, he said softly. I do. Meanwhile, across the city, Linda sat cross-legged on her small couch in a modest two-bedroom apartment she shared with her younger sister. Papers and textbooks were scattered around her, assignments she had to grade before Monday. But her eyes were fixed on a worn photo album in her lap. She flipped through pages slowly. Photos of her parents back when they were alive, her sister's high school graduation, a camping trip that had ended in rain and mosquito bites, but also laughter. Her world had always been small, tight. She'd grown used to dreaming within boundaries. That night with Jonathan and Nicole had nudged something loose. Something dangerous. Hope. Linda sighed and closed the album, setting it aside. A message pinged on her phone. Her heart jumped before she even looked at the screen. Jonathan. Nicole says she's been emotionally betrayed, that she hasn't seen you in 5 days. I think she's been watching too many cartoons. Want to grab coffee Saturday? Just you and me this time. Linda smiled, thumbs hovering above the screen. Linda, only if you promise not to bring glitter weapons. Saturday works. Just you and me. Saturday afternoon, they met at a quiet little cafe tucked between a used bookstore and a plant shop. The kind of place that played old jazz and smelled like cinnamon and old wood. Linda was already seated with a cappuccino in hand, wearing a deep olive coat and a thick knit scarf. Jonathan arrived minutes later, apologizing for traffic, looking a little less like the CEO and more like a man finally off duty. Dark jeans, casual blazer, and a relaxed smile that softened the sharpness of his usual expression. They talked for nearly 2 hours. Not about work or money. Not about titles or surface-level things. They talked about grief. About raising a child alone. About Linda's parents, and the accident that left her and her younger sister to figure things out on their own. About the pressure Jonathan felt to always have answers, and the guilt he carried for the moments he didn't. There were silences, but not uncomfortable ones. Just moments where their eyes met, and neither of them needed to fill the space. Later, as they stood outside saying goodbye, Linda tucked her hands into her coat pockets, her breath visible in the cold. You're different than I expected, she said. Better or worse? She smiled. Definitely better. Jonathan looked down, then back up at her. Liam wouldn't have shown up. I keep thinking how close I came to missing that night. Maybe you were supposed to, she replied. But you didn't. And now we're here. The wind blew gently between them, rustling the edge of Linda's scarf. Jonathan reached out, brushed a loose curl from her cheek, and let his fingers linger for a second longer than necessary. I'd like to keep seeing you, he said. Linda's smile faltered just enough to show the fear underneath. I'd like that too, she said. But Jonathan, I'm not rich. I don't come from your world. I can't offer fancy. Just real. Jonathan didn't hesitate. I don't want fancy, he said. I've had that. What I want now is exactly what you just said. Real. That night, alone in her apartment, Linda stared at the ceiling in the dark, her heart loud in her chest. For the first time in a long time, the future didn't feel like a burden. It felt like a door she might finally walk through. And for Jonathan, when Nicole asked that night if he'd seen Miss Linda again, he simply nodded and tucked her in with a smile. Because something had started. Not quickly, not explosively, but deeply, quietly, exactly the way real things begin. The city seemed quieter lately, or maybe it was just Jonathan's mind that had calmed. In the weeks following their second outing, he and Linda began seeing each other regularly. Not the kind of regular that involved lavish dates and social media announcements, but a rhythm that felt natural. Thursday evenings became their ritual. Either a coffee run after Nicole's ballet class, or Linda stopping by their penthouse with takeout and a bag of books for Nicole. Weekends were more open. Trips to the park, building blanket forts in Jonathan's spacious living room, Linda teaching Nicole to make pancakes on a griddle Jonathan never touched before. What started as a spontaneous act of kindness had turned into something that none of them, Especially Jonathan expected comfort. And with that comfort came something deeper. One Friday night, after Nicole had fallen asleep on the couch mid-movie, Jonathan and Linda sat on the balcony, a shared blanket wrapped around their shoulders. The city lights twinkled below, casting reflections in their wine glasses. "You ever think about how we got here?" Jonathan asked, his voice soft, almost lost in the wind. "All the time," Linda replied. "Sometimes it feels like I stepped into someone else's life." He looked at her, the glow of the city dancing in her eyes. "This is your life now," he said. Linda hesitated. "That's the thing though, is it really? I mean, how long before someone like me becomes inconvenient in your world?" Jonathan didn't answer right away. He reached for her hand, threading his fingers between hers. "You've never been inconvenient. From the very beginning, you were the only part of that night that made sense." Linda blinked slowly, surprised by the weight of his honesty. He smiled. "Besides, Nicole would disown me if I ever let you go." They both laughed quietly, leaning into the warmth of each other, into the comfort of something accidental that had turned very intentional. But not everyone was pleased. A week later, during a quarterly board luncheon, Jonathan was approached by none other than Liam. Same smug grin. Same expensive cufflinks. But the tone was different, laced with curiosity and something darker. "I heard from Maggie you've been spending time with that girl," Liam said casually, sipping his scotch. Jonathan didn't look up from his plate. "Her name is Linda." "Oh, right. The teacher. I thought that was just a one-off thing, you filling in for me like some kind of moral superhero." Jonathan set his fork down slowly. "I wasn't filling in for you. I was doing what you should have done." Liam laughed. Okay. No need to get righteous. I just think it's a little off-brand for you. I mean, she's sweet and all, but she's not from our world. Doesn't even pretend to be." Jonathan turned toward him now, face cold. "Maybe that's exactly why I like her." Liam raised his eyebrows, still grinning. "Well, when she starts asking for credit cards and a car, don't say I didn't warn you." Jonathan stood up, napkin dropped to the table. "You know what your problem is, Liam?" "Oh, do tell." "You think money is the only currency that matters. But some of us have learned that character has more value than net worth." With that, Jonathan walked away, leaving Liam speechless, and for once a little embarrassed. That night, he told Linda about the conversation. Not to upset her, but to be transparent. Her reaction surprised him. She didn't cry. She didn't retreat. She just sat there, stirring her tea. "I knew this would happen," she said. "I knew eventually someone would look at you, at me, and ask, why her?" "I don't care what they think," Jonathan replied quickly. "But I do," she said gently. "Not because they're right, but because I know how this world works. All it takes is one whisper, one assumption, and suddenly I'm a gold digger or a charity project." He reached across the table, covering her hand with his. "Then let them whisper," he said. "I know who you are. Nicole knows who you are. That's enough." A long silence followed, not cold, but heavy with everything unspoken. Finally, Linda looked at him, eyes steady. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Because I'm not the kind of woman people expect at your side, Jonathan. I won't always know what fork to use or how to smile at the right people. But I'll be real. Always." He leaned forward, kissing her forehead gently. "I've had the right people, Linda," he whispered. "They never made me feel half as seen as you do." From then on, something shifted. They were no longer dancing around what this was. It had become clear. Jonathan was falling in love. Nicole was already there. And Linda, guarded but willing, was starting to believe that maybe, just maybe, she belonged in their world. Not because she changed to fit it, but because they had made space for her as she was. By mid-autumn, their bond had quietly evolved into something sacred, unspoken, but understood. Jonathan didn't need to ask how Linda felt every time she arrived at his door with Nicole's favorite pastries from the corner bakery, or when she stayed late after dinner just to tuck Nicole into bed. She didn't need to hear the words either. Jonathan's actions said them every day. In the way he brought her tea without asking, in how he walked her to her car and waited until she was safely inside, in how he looked at her like he wasn't used to peace, but now didn't know how to live without it. Even Nicole had begun referring to their weekends as family time. But nothing stays untouched forever. It began with a dinner. Not one of theirs. This one was corporate, a formal evening gala hosted by one of Colteca's primary investors. Jonathan had debated whether to bring Linda. Not because he was ashamed, but because the room would be filled with snakes in suits and women who wore pearls like armor. Still, Linda deserved to be by his side. She was by his side. She agreed to come nervously. "I don't own anything couture, you know," she said as she tried on dresses from a borrowed rack a friend lent her. "You'd be the most elegant woman in that room if you came in jeans," Jonathan told her. He meant it. Still, she chose a sleek black gown that hugged her gently and left her shoulders bare. Her curls were pinned up, her makeup minimal but radiant. When Jonathan saw her walk down the steps to meet him at the car, he didn't speak for a full 5 seconds. "You look stunning. You clean up all right yourself," she teased, smoothing his lapel. The evening started well enough. They mingled, exchanged polite greetings. Some guests were gracious, smiling, courteous. Others eyed Linda with a mixture of curiosity and condescension, their smiles just a little too tight, their questions just a little too probing. "So, how do you two know each other? Are you in tech as well?" "Oh, teaching. That's noble." Linda held her composure gracefully, never flinching. But Jonathan saw it. The subtle shifts in her posture, the stiff smiles, the tension behind her eyes. She was enduring the judgment, not engaging with it. Then Liam arrived. Of course. Glass in hand. Smirk in place. Wearing confidence like an overcoat. "Well," he said with a whistle as he approached them. "Don't you two look cozy tonight?" Jonathan's jaw tensed, but he didn't respond. Liam turned to Linda. "I owe you an apology, actually. I didn't realize I was passing up such devoted company." Linda gave him a bland smile. "No apology needed. I think the universe did me a favor." Liam chuckled, amused by her boldness. "Jonathan's always been the white knight type," he said. "He's got that rescue complex. Finds someone struggling, and his instincts kick in." Jonathan stepped between them slightly, voice calm but firm. "Careful, Liam." Liam raised his hands, mock innocent. "Hey, no shade. I'm just saying, everyone plays a role. Some of us chase power, some of us chase redemption." The air grew heavier. Linda turned to Jonathan. "I need a moment." She walked toward the balcony alone. Jonathan found her a few minutes later, her hands gripping the iron railing, eyes cast toward the glittering skyline. Her jaw was clenched. "I didn't come here to be pitted," she said before he could speak. "I know. I didn't come here to prove I belong. I know." She turned to him, eyes wet. "But I feel like that's all I've been doing since I met you." Jonathan stepped closer. "You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Not to Liam. Not to them. Not even to me. I know you believe that," she said, voice shaking. "But do they? Because I heard the whispers tonight, Jonathan. I felt the stares. You might be used to walking through rooms like that, but I'm not. I walk in with you and suddenly I'm less, just because I don't have the right shoes or last name." He reached out and cupped her face gently. "Then let me make this clear, right now. You belong with me. And I don't want the woman who knows which fork to use or who smiles at the right people. I want you. The one who doesn't play games. Who tells the truth. Who laughs with my daughter and makes us both feel like home." She closed her eyes, a tear slipping down her cheek. "This is hard," she whispered. He nodded. "It's supposed to be. The things that matter most usually are." They left early. No grand exit. No need for dramatic scenes. Just two people who chose peace over pretense. In the car ride home, Linda leaned her head on Jonathan's shoulder, silent. He didn't speak either. Just held her hand in his, squeezing gently every few minutes, reminding her she wasn't alone. When they arrived at her building, Jonathan walked her to the door. She turned to him before going inside. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For not letting me shrink tonight." He kissed her then, not just a polite goodnight, but a slow, deliberate promise. "I'd never let you shrink," he murmured. She smiled faintly. You're too good to be true sometimes. He shook his head. No, just a man lucky enough to have found something real, and smart enough not to let it go. Upstairs, alone in her apartment, Linda stood in the dark for a while, still in her dress. Still in her thoughts. She had been bruised before, emotionally, socially, by the silent assumptions of others. But tonight, she had also been chosen. Again. And for once, maybe she was starting to believe it. It started with a question. Not from Jonathan. Not from Linda. But from Nicole. It was a lazy Sunday afternoon, one of those golden, slow-moving days where time seems to forget to rush. Jonathan and Linda sat on the living room rug, surrounded by half-built Lego castles, crayon doodles, and Nicole's favorite plush animals arranged like royal guests. Linda was helping Nicole braid her doll's hair. Jonathan watched from the couch, coffee in hand, a quiet smile curving his lips. Miss Linda? Nicole asked suddenly, looking up. Yes, sweetheart? Nicole paused, biting her lip. Can you be my mommy now? The room fell still. Jonathan's heart skipped, unsure whether to speak or wait. Linda blinked, surprised, but she didn't laugh or deflect. She looked Nicole straight in the eyes and asked gently, Why do you want me to be your mommy? Nicole didn't hesitate. Because you come to my dance class and you make pancakes like the ones in movies. Because you tell me the truth when my drawings are weird, but still put them on the fridge. And because Daddy looks happy when you're here. Really happy. Silence wrapped around them again, warm and fragile. Jonathan placed his coffee down and stood. He walked over, sat beside them on the rug, and took Nicole into his lap. Hey, princess, he said softly. That's a really big question. But I mean it, she insisted, now slightly worried. I really want her to stay forever. Linda placed a gentle hand on Nicole's knee. I want to stay too, she said, voice trembling. If that's okay with both of you. Jonathan looked at her, heart full and aching. He didn't have a ring. No grand speech prepared. No audience. But it didn't matter. He reached for Linda's hand. I wasn't planning to do this right now, he admitted. But I don't want to wait anymore. Linda's breath caught. I've loved you quietly for a while now, Jonathan said. Not just the way you love Nicole, or how you give us both space to be ourselves, but because you've given us something I didn't even realize we were missing. You. Your honesty. Your strength. Your whole heart. He paused, smiling nervously. So I'm asking you here, now, in this mess of toys and love, will you be with us? Not just visit. Not just stay over on weekends. Will you be a part of our home? Our family. Nicole's eyes were wide. Linda covered her mouth with both hands, tears spilling down her cheeks. Yes, she whispered, then louder, yes. They all laughed as Nicole flung herself at them both, wrapping her little arms around their necks in a tangled, joyful hug. The weeks that followed were a blur of change, but a beautiful kind. Linda didn't move in right away. She insisted on a slow integration, not out of hesitation, but respect. Jonathan admired that. It gave Nicole time to adjust and made every new toothbrush, new meal, new bedtime story feel intentional. One Saturday, they all painted a wall in Jonathan's spare bedroom, Linda's soon-to-be office. Nicole, of course, added stars and hearts no one could cover. Jonathan left them there. Linda met Jonathan's parents over dinner, and to everyone's surprise, his mother cried, not out of disapproval, but relief. She later confessed that for the first time since Jonathan's divorce, she saw her son happy. Not polished, not pretending, just happy. Even Liam went silent after seeing a photo of the three of them at Nicole's school performance, beaming like a ready-made family. Months passed. The seasons shifted again. Winter's hush gave way to spring's bloom. And one morning, without announcement, Jonathan got down on one knee in the kitchen while Linda was still in her pajamas, pouring cereal. He held out a simple ring. Just say yes again, he said. She laughed, eyes filled with tears. Always. The wedding was small. Backyard. Twinkle lights. Nicole as the flower girl and also the self-appointed MC. Linda wore a simple dress. Jonathan wore a navy suit with Nicole's hand-painted boutonniere. When the vows were said and the sun dipped behind the trees, Jonathan knelt down in front of Nicole, holding a second, smaller ring, a silver heart locket. "This one's for you," he said. "Because today, I didn't just marry the woman I love. I promised to keep building this life with you too." Nicole cried. Everyone did. And so, the man who wasn't supposed to be at the date, the woman who was stood up, and the little girl who asked all the right questions, became a family. Not because of money or timing or fairy tale magic, but because 3 people chose each other, every single day. We have come to the end of the story. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more interesting stories.